everyone, and welcome to the Kahua Build Different podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Johnson, Chief Evangelist at Kahua, and today we've got a great topic, build versus buy, finding the right fit for your organization. I am so pleased to have a couple industry experts with me today. I'm going to let them spend just a moment to introduce themselves. Roman, let's start with you.
Hello, everybody. Roman Peryoslavsky. I'm one of the co-founders of Centranium. We are a Kahua partner that implements Kahua software, and we also build our own applications on Kahua platform. I come with over 25 years experience in the industry across various companies and technologies.
Roman, what are some of the things you do there at Centranium? What are some of your responsibilities?
My responsibilities, I'm looking after the technical side of all the solutions, and my business partner, PJ Benson, he's on the business side, processes, definition, etc.
All right, excellent. And what do you like to do after work, Roman?
Interesting question. Well, my number one hobby and passion is coaching youth volleyball.
Excellent.
I used to play volleyball back in my youth in my home country of Ukraine. And since my daughter was in high school, I took on coaching and never left after she graduated.
That's
And
awesome.
a little bit of playing poker in my free time.
As a father of two volleyball daughters, I appreciate your work. Carrie, welcome. Glad you're with us today. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yes, Carrie Stieglitz. I'm the president of K-Volve. We work on technical solutions around Kahua as well as process re-engineering in the construction and facilities space. So many years having fun, helping owners to do work a little more effectively.
And Carrie, what's your role specifically? You said you're the president. You're also the founder, is that right?
Yes, I am a co-founder. And my role is to oversee the project management, project director, and the business process reengineering work stream specifically.
All right, excellent. Carrie, what do you like to do when you're not helping construction professionals?
Well, I actually just picked up golfing about 2 years ago. And I had a milestone moment. I almost broke 100 this last weekend. So yeah, for me, that's a really great accomplishment.
I always say outdoors, you're with friends or friendly people. There's usually cold beer. It's all good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both for being with us today. This is going to be a fun and hopefully informative conversation. We've had a lot of fun in this past year debating this topic. My good friend and fellow evangelist, AJ Waters, and I have taken sides and beat up this argument mostly in a farcical way. Carrie, I think you were one of our first moderators that attempted to keep us on track in that conversation.
Whew, yeah, it was a challenge for sure.
As I recall, you kind of had to take over at the end and close the conversation with some sanity. So we appreciate you being part of that and helping us launch that effort this year. By the way, we've posted a link to that final debate. We videotaped it. And we invite everybody to take a look. There's a link to that. We'll drop that in the show notes here, and I think you'll find it both funny and informative. So today on Build Different, though, I want to approach the topic just a little differently. I'd like to hear the arguments for building software from scratch or those for buying it off the shelf ready to use, but I want to do it in a little different way. So Carrie, can I ask that you get us started?
Yeah.
Give us some of the arguments for buying commercial, off the shelf. We'll probably use the term COTS today. Why should we buy COTS software ready to use?
Well, there's this saying, what is the best PMIS for you to use? It's the one you can start using tomorrow, because whatever you use is going to be better than the manual processes. So one of the biggest benefits of COTS is it's ready to go, plug and play, usually configured to industry best practices. It comes with training materials. It comes preset with online videos. Everybody kind of has a shared understanding of how to use it. Most of the products are scalable and configurable. And then we also have the ability to, because it's ready to go tomorrow, it's super fast to set up and kind of a really well-supported product.
How would it compare cost-wise to the option of creating something yourself? I understand A lot of PMIS systems are fairly expensive. Sometimes they're even based on the value of construction is what the vendor will charge. So how do they compare?
A lot of COTS do tend to be more cost effective, obviously, than building something from scratch. And because it's already set up and all of those other ancillary things exist, ready to go day one.
Okay, excellent. Roman, how about you give us the arguments for custom building your own software solutions?
Thank you, Nicholas. That's easy. I'm a software developer, and that's where my background is. So I develop plenty of custom software packages, and I learned a lot of things about this topic. Specifically, I know my processes better than anyone from outside. I can adjust them. My process not necessarily what we call makes sense for everybody else, for example. If someone comes to me and says, well, we can implement your common best practices, one thing I learned over my 25 years in the industry, there's no such thing as common logic. If something makes sense to you, doesn't mean it will make sense to me, and vice versa. So why go and buy something that I will not use most of the functionality, and I will need to adjust my own process to fit into process developed by somebody else. On that same topic, companies that build software, they are technology companies. They don't understand construction project management. They're developers who sit in their office and they build software all day. At the same time, we actually every day we are on our construction sites. We build projects. We know how the project needs to be managed. We are also always looking to improve our processes, and as those improvements occur, we need to adjust our software occasionally to make sure that our software reflects the changes on the ground.
So even after you've created this software for yourself, you're saying that you have the ability to continue to evolve it, change it as your business processes or as your business changes.
Absolutely. I also can control when any new features go into the product rather than relying on a software vendor to update and maintain their environment. The environment goes down. I don't have any control over what I can do with bringing that environment back up.
Okay. So, Carrie, we're going to do this differently today. As I said, rather than have you rebuff or rebuke Roman's ideas, I actually want you to critique your own points. So you made a lot of good points about why we should buy off the shelf. Can you be self-critical and tell us now why some of those, maybe poke holes in those arguments?
Of course I can, because as we all know, life is not black and white. So when we say software is ready to go now, and traditional COTS tends to be, not as configurable. We also have a really big change management and adoption issue. So everybody's used to be doing work a certain way, and all of a sudden now they have to do it the way the software does it, which we all know 80% of the work when we look at adopting new technology is on the human side. So this does kind of cause an issue when you have something ready to go right away, but it completely changes how people do work. I will say on the industry best practice side, I personally don't love that term because it makes an opinion that one group or one individual knows what good looks like. And if you want to say something as simple as RFIs, ASIs, yeah, we do it 80% of the time in a very similar fashion, but it's the nuance of how people do it and execute it and how they have individual approvals and reviews that really make a big difference in off-the-shelf software not always meeting those needs. On the cost side, you heard my hesitation earlier. The cost usually is a little lower out of the gate because you're not spending a lot of time and energy creating documentation custom to your organization or configuring it. But the issue is if it doesn't work or if you need to change it later and it doesn't account for that change, then you end up having to replace it because we get this people don't like using it, and so those downstream costs and risks are really increased as well, because of course when we say we're implementing a new software tool, it's that whole garbage in, garbage out. If people don't want to use it, then our investment isn't as reliable. On the intuitive side, it's intuitive usually for the people that make the software, but not always intuitive for an end user experiencing it for the first time. And again, this is because people come from a perspective of, how do I connect how the software wants me to do it with how I do it today? So you're asking them to stretch a little bit further to make that connection. This could be something as nuanced as, I have specific names for it. I call it a design contract or a design build contract, and my software may call all of those things just commitments or encumbrances, So the naming of the thing as well, just asking people to go a little further. And I'm not done yet. I can keep going.
They're your arguments. You poke the hole.
I love arguing with myself. So the training manuals and videos, again, we're going back to that whole concept of generic materials are helpful because they get you somewhere. But if I'm trying to make that connection in how it all works together, something that's generic is not going to be as helpful as something that's bespoke. Also, when we're asking people how to change, if we don't explain to them that connection via the training materials and how they used to do it and how they're doing it today and the value of change, then we tend to get a little less buy-in. Scalable, some are, some aren't. I hinted at this in the beginning. So depending on the one you pick, when an organization chooses to build software, they have to build in the scalability from day one. And so little things like, hey, I'm building it a certain way, but if I don't have fields that are configurable, that I can change the name, that I can adjust it, or I build the workflow in a way that I can change the workflow, you can't really go back and rebuild your software to do that. So in cases like Kahua, they built it to be a platform as a service. But some of the other COT software that we work with, we have conversations about, this is how you do it today. Well, this is how the software does it. And then when they ask us, can that change? We say, not really. This is how the software does it. So really the scalable and configurability highly depends on the product you pick. And then the routine maintenance and upgrades, I just heard from a client where we were replacing their PMIS, and they were spending almost $500,000 a year just on maintenance and upgrades.
Wow.
So this thing that was supposed to be low cost because they were going to build it once and not have to pay for it year over year, they were spending enormous amounts of time and energy supporting it, maintaining it, trying to enhance it. And that was all cost borne in-house specific and not shared across multiple clients. So let's not even talk about trying to innovate it or change it.
All right, you've said a lot, and one of the things I caught was at the beginning you talked about you can configure the software. It seems to me if you configure the software, then it's not ready to use tomorrow. It's not really off the shelf. And then, as you said later, you've broken your training manual. If you're doing it a little differently, you did have to put some work into it, and now the baseline training documentation isn't nearly as helpful as it would have been otherwise. So these are things that kind of it breaks itself. But Carrie, at the end you talked about the foundation that these technologies, these PMISs are built on. Kahua is a low-code application platform as a service. Are there other major players out there that are low-code platforms as a service, or are they all traditional software as a service? All the big ones. There are 100 different PMIS candidates.
Yeah. So it's funny, I'm sure if you were to ask the vendor itself, they might give a different answer, but I'll tell you about my own experience.
Please.
So there's definitely softwares out there. So I'll use Procore as an example. It's a very well-known platform. A lot of contractors use it. And because of the cost and the program pricing, it's very quick to stand up and ready to go. And so those processes are kind of what I would consider, an industry standard for COTS, right? But there's a reason that we, as a firm that focuses on process reengineering and improvement, don't use a product like that, because if we spend all this time and energy helping them to figure out how they want to have the most effective processes, and then their software can't support that, then that for us is not a good recommendation. I will say prior to Kahua, we worked a lot with Unifier, which is an Oracle product. So that one is really configuration. You are given a lot of tools, but you're still limited to the tools that they provide you for configuration. So we have a bit of a different experience with Kahua because it's low code. There's so many more options available to us. Just a really great example is if you have a workflow in some of the other products, then you can create a notification. It looks like this. You decide when you want to trigger it. With a low-code application like Kahua, we can say, do you want it to be an email? Do you want it to be a notification? Do you want it to be a task? And so there's a lot more options available in a low-code application versus a configuration application.
All right, I'm going to come back to that. I want to talk a little bit more about that underlying technology, but before we go too much further, I want to come back to Roman, and same thing, Roman, can you poke holes in your arguments for building it yourself? You gave us some really convincing arguments as to why this sounds like, this is really the right way to go, but no,
easy.
Okay.
One thing I learned again is how to be devil's advocate. But before I go to rebuke myself, I really want to go back to what Kerry said about life not being black and white. After looking at Kerry's picture, I wonder if the life is black and white.
Anyway, sorry. I intentionally put some red in mine, so.
Sorry, a little bit of a friendly joke. Kerry and I, we know each other for a while. So, going back to what I was saying, yes, I absolutely, if I want to build my own software and I know my process really well, it's a great concept. However, there is a really good risk of ending up in a tunnel vision and an echo chamber where you don't really know you're just doing what you think is right.
Right.
And you might easily miss a bigger picture and limit yourself to certain advancements that happen in the world from that perspective. Working with the software that is being developed with the input from multiple clients, almost always beneficial because you are now opening yourself to other ideas as well. It kind of also reflects the common best practices. There are a lot of similarities in the process that you find. Everyone has change management process. Everyone has document management process. Everyone has the way of managing RFIs and invoices, etc. Yes, you might have something specific to your business, but there is a lot of stuff that is still very similar between different companies, between almost every single business. I haven't seen one business. We've implemented software over those years for many different clients in this industry from different types of, like we have software, the companies that develop software for a living that need project management. We have financial institutions. We have government agencies. There is a lot of commonalities between all of them. Also, on the same topic, every software package, what the end user sees and what you think you're modifying, it's just like an iceberg. It's just that you see only top 10%. What you're missing is all the backend stuff that needs to be developed, needs to be established. You need the database. You need to have the database structure. You need to have the infrastructure to manage all your hardware that will host the software that you're developing. It may seem like an afterthought, but it is the key to your success in implementing and building software. So and not just building initially, but also maintaining it to make sure that it actually works correctly for you for the rest of the life cycle of the solution that you build. In addition, I found that a lot of custom software projects, in their majority, end up as Excel spreadsheet. An Excel spreadsheet, while it may be useful on the surface, at the end of the day, it has a lot of limitations as far as data sharing, security implementations, etc., and implementing actual processes that you want to manage. On the topic of software companies being pure technology companies, well, it might be true in some other industries. I think Uber was a perfect example. When they just came out, they were pure software disruptor to the taxi industry. And it went smooth in some areas, but in other jurisdictions that have more regulated services, they ran into a lot of problems, and they were limited from a lot of markets until they changed their strategy. In construction project management, one thing that I found is that there is not a single serious company that was founded by pure software guys. Practically every single company was founded by people who came from construction industry. I literally,
Yeah.
We can go through every one of them. The Meridians of the old days, Constructware, Unified Skyer, right, at the time, right? All those companies, eBuilder before Trimble acquisition, all the people were construction people who came into software because they were missing something in their processes. So while the actual software being done by pure developers, there is a big group of people behind them who define how that software is being built. And these people came from the industry. They know the processes. In addition, don't underestimate the intelligence of those software developers. The longer they work in the industry, the more they learn about those specific processes, and they become invaluable in their feedback. I'm not going to, I will drum my own drum here. I came from pure software development background when I started in the industry back in 2002. But over the years, I believe I became sort of an expert on the industry quite a bit. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to survive this long. Now, as far as continuous process improvement is concerned, it absolutely is important, and it is critical, no matter whether you buy software or you build your own. You absolutely need to have that implemented, and that is one of the most important reasons if you choose to buy software, is to buy software that is a platform that will allow you to adjust your processes on the fly without needing to go to the software vendor to make changes to that platform.
All right, so I've heard a lot. For one thing, I've heard that there are practices, there are common practices, there are best practices. The best practices aren't always common. So, you're gonna have to, if you don't have some method to create your own software, to configure your own software, you're going to be stuck with somebody else's processes. Roman, I heard you say too, consider the continuing cost. If you're going to evolve the software, you need to know that you, the construction organization, is about to become a software company, because you don't just get it up and running and be happy forever. You're going to have a help desk. You're going to have to create your own training materials. You're going to have to continue to evolve your software because your business will continue to evolve. So know that up front, and that's okay. Otherwise, it's a real downside. So that's really helpful. I appreciate both of you guys kind of attacking your own arguments. I want to kind of jump back here and kind of ask about the future now. I mean, as I look back first, my first job in the construction space was running blue lines. Carrie, I don't know if you even know what a blue line is. Okay, it was an old form of printing drawings, and I would go home smelling like ammonia every night. I did that for an engineering shop in Norcross, Georgia. I was 17-year-old, just out of high school, and the fax machine and pagers were new and incredible technology back then. So I witnessed the entry of desktop computing into our workspaces, and I've seen the construction industry move from mountains of paper to digital project documentation. So I've seen incredible improvement and incredible change over the course of time. We built some really good PMIS systems. I was proud to be part of Constructware, the first internet-based project management tool. And you two have convinced me that if I buy COTS, I'm never going to be happy. And if I try to build my own software, there's a great likelihood my construction company is going to go bankrupt. So let's get to the punchline here. What's the real answer? How can buyers get what they really want and what they really need in an efficient and affordable way? Roman?
Well, the low-code platform is the answer. So you need to find the software vendor that will provide the basis for you, the options for you to implement certain processes that already have been done, but you can adjust those processes to how you want them to work. You don't want to worry about that 70% below the surface on the iceberg. You just want to concentrate to adjusting the process to what you specifically need. I think in 2023, Gartner estimated that 70% of software projects will be done via low-code platforms. And trust me, not everything that calls itself a platform is really a platform. In my personal history, again, I'm not going to name the companies, but I've been through a few that actually claim that they sell a platform. In reality, that platform was not really a realistic way of implementing it. You actually needed a whole group of pure software developers to build essentially a new product on top of that platform. Kahua is actually quite different. PJ and I we founded Centrania back in 2016, and in July of 2016. In August of 2016, we were in touch with Kahua, and I remember like it was yesterday when we went to the office in Alpharetta, and we sat in the room with several folks from Kahua who were giving us the overview of what Kahua actually is. And I remember me looking at PJ and him looking at me when it clicked to us that this is something that we have never seen before. I'm not saying it just because I'm on Kahua-sponsored podcast. We built our business entirely around Kahua because of what Kahua platform provides us. I will talk a little bit more about this later. I don't want to completely steal the thunder at this point.
That's pretty fantastic. So the platform matters. I have been a big critic that I find other vendors who will bundle point solutions together on a single invoice and call that a platform because they can sell it to you on one piece of paper. They talk about that being their platform. So I appreciate you pointing some distinctions between that. Carrie, I'm going to ask you, can you, in layman's terms, explain what a low-code application platform is, what it means? Roman did a really good job. He said that if you're working on applications on a low-code platform, you don't have to worry about that 70% below the surface. And I know a little bit, and I think I understand what that means. But can you kind of put this in layman's terms so people understand what it means to develop applications on an LCAP, a low-code application platform?
Yeah, and I'll say that it's funny because Roman and I came from different backgrounds, so we arrived at the same destination. So before I dive into it, I want to also say, so my first implementation using software was Salesforce, and that was back in 2005. So I thought that's how all software worked. So I got introduced to a platform as a service very early on, and I think the most common one that folks know about, if they're not familiar with Salesforce, is your iPhone. So in a very similar way, you have applications that sit on top of the iPhone platform, and iPhone provides developers kits to its partners. It also, does some basic QC to make sure that the customer experience is going to be consistent across the entire iPhone. But I think that's probably the easiest way to describe it and the one that people are most familiar with. Taking that a bit further, you also have the ability to add apps on your phone at a future date. And so this makes a huge difference when we're really talking about platform, which is as innovation happens, we have this really great Kahua partner network, which Roman talked about. And new apps become available, or you're trying to change the way you're doing business. Basically, being able to add that app into Kahua at any time versus having here's all the apps you get day one, and there's no connectivity back to the platform. It's a huge difference, and unfortunately, harder to tell people about when they're looking for a new PMIS, but we have some tricks to help them expose what they might actually need during that process.
But in addition,
Please
sorry,
play in.
if you don't mind, yes. In addition to adding new apps to Kahua platform, I think what's invaluable is the fact that Kahua allows you to modify their own standard apps and what they call expand the functionality, where you don't have to start developing your contract application from scratch. There is a very solid and robust contract management module already in Kahua, but if you want to adjust it to give your own taste to it, you can just start with that point, and you can create what Kahua calls an extension that will introduce your own functionality. But depending on how that particular extension is written, you can also continue taking advantage of any new standard features that Kahua will come up with in the future. So you have the best of both worlds. You have the standard product that already provides significant amount of starting functionality, plus you can add your own flavor to it, adjust the workflow, add additional workflow steps, add additional tasks. You can either do it, as Gary said, either by configuration or by actual extending of the functionality. And before you don't get scared, you don't need to be a developer to start working on this low-code platform for Kahua. In my company, I'm the only person with pure software background. Our director of professional services, who also does a lot of capable developer, James Lamar, he comes from pure construction project management background. He worked as a project manager in his previous life, and then he worked as business side on the implementation in software companies for his entire career. Until a few years ago, he decided to step into K-Builder learning, and he got so excited that he does almost everything that I do right now, and without any supervision. So you need to have a good business mind. You need to have some logical thing, but usually if you have a good business mind, logic comes natural to you. And if you want to learn K-Builder coding, you can do it in a pretty short term. You don't need a software degree to do that.
Carrie, you echo that?
Yeah. Usually when we're looking for resources, we say, do you have a basic understanding of a database and SQL? Then you're good to go. You can learn K-Builder very easily.
Wow. So, Roman, you also said that you inherit a lot of qualities. One of the things that especially as an evangelist for Kahua, one of the things that we talk about the most is our extensive cybersecurity work that we've done to gain certifications and access to federal agencies that others just don't have. So we're very proud to have FedRAMP authorization and GovRAMP and almost the equivalent in most Western countries, we've achieved those kind of standards. So what you're saying is that if I'm building on top of that platform, I inherit all that security as well.
100%, yes. That's a huge differentiator for sure.
So, Carrie, I'm going to take your analogy and just extend it a little bit. So, what you said was buying a PMIS can be like buying an iPhone. You take it out of the box and you expect it to have some apps, right? You don't really think about it having a platform. You expect that it's going to have a phone app and a camera app and texting app and probably a few others, right? That Apple created those apps. But I don't really think about it having a platform. They call it iOS. I'm an Android guy, so it's iOS, right? That's the platform. That's the hard work, the foundation that they've done so that it's really easy to write apps on top of it. And when I think about my phone, I think Google probably created 10 or 12 apps on my phone, but I've got 250 apps on my phone. And Google didn't create 240 of those. So they've allowed, the way that Apple's allowed, the way that Kahua allows others to come in and create and be creative on the platform and inherit all the goodness that's underneath it. Is that a fair way of saying that?
Yep.
All
I
right.
think that, the other thing I do want to just point out is, well, why doesn't PMIS work like my iPhone then, right? And I just do want to point it back. Construction projects are complex projects, right? Yeah. So it's not like just anybody could go out and build a software. There's like a guy in a basement building an iPhone app, right? But construction is so complex, and we have so many different delivery types, so many different moving parts. It's not just as simple as that. You really have to have somebody that knows the industry in order to, get that really good foundation out of the gate. Yeah.
But Kahua does come with the very solid iPhone and iPad apps, so it is sort of on your iPhone and on your iPad.
Gary, to your point, I am not technical enough to know what this means, but I was told by our founders in several conversations when they determined to go that going low code, no code was the only way to go. They did look for a commercial offering to build on top of. Salesforce was probably one of those. There are some commercial platforms that allow you to build apps on top. And what I was told was that they just weren't deep enough for the complexity of a construction process. If you think about what Salesforce does, it mostly does marketing things. It sends emails and it writes scripts to find more people to send emails to, and relative to a construction process, fairly simple. And that they determined up front pretty quickly that they weren't going to be able to buy a commercial off the shelf platform, so they were going to have to build one.
From scratch. You're talking to a certified Salesforce administrator and developer in me. And that was actually a time of my life before Peter and I founded Centranium. I was trying to figure out what is the best way to go around it. And right. Salesforce definitely was one of the areas that I explored, certified through it and everything. And while that platform provides a lot of features, but yes, there are certain things that Kahua provides that are absolutely unique to construction, like hierarchical project structure, the inheritance of permissions, and all that stuff. They're key differentiators that are not easy to implement in a lot of other construction project management packages.
Yeah,
that is for sure. And yeah, I've been telling Brian for a while that Kahua's main competition is not the builders of this world, it's the force.com. In reality, they are a lot more, that's more of a competition, if you think about it. Kahua is not, while Kahua is now primarily construction project management, you're not limited to that. If someone is willing to open a new industry to use Kahua platform, it's absolutely possible to do it.
My prediction has been for quite a while that someone's going to create an enterprise asset management tool on the Kahua platform, because we do such a good job of collecting asset data during design and construction. It's a natural flow. So, and many of the tools that are in that market are kind of long in the tooth at this point. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see, Roman. Let's not talk too far in the future, but let's talk about present. And Roman, I'm going to give you a chance to tell us really to have a brag session. Tell us about some of the cool things that you've done on the Kahua platform, some of the things you've created, maybe the accomplishments that you're most proud of.
Thank you, Nicholas. Well, I go a little bit in the history. So we've been Kahua partners since 2016. At the beginning, we worked with some other software vendors also. From 2018, we became exclusively just Kahua. We just see no reason for us to partner. Kahua provides so many opportunities for partners. And initially, we helped Kahua with some product design for owners market, because that's where our main expertise is. We've done a lot of major implementations with Kahua, but we also started, back in 2019, we started developing our own product, which is now the biggest growing part of our business. We started with the sources of funds, which is our flagship product. It's been on the market and getting good reviews. Since then, we've also expanded our product offering by introducing closeout application, phase gate application, which actually recently, earlier this year, went through a complete, not just a facelift, essentially introduction of a lot of new features and functionality to that product. We've created a work orders going back to asset management process that you were mentioning. We already exploring that area and following on Kahoot asset-centric direction by introducing work orders application as well as commissioning applications. Commissioning application we built in partnership with Procon. We are currently working on several other applications. Probably the key one that is coming out in the next month or so is the project initiation application, where people can create project requests that will have to go through some scoring mechanism before they become actual Kahoot projects, and also being able to start tracking some of the common information like milestones, budgets, some early phase gate process, even before the Kahoot project has been created, and then continue with that with all that data going forward. We're also working on a knowledge management application that is there's no specific release date, but it will be coming soon. So product management, like building applications on Kahoot platform, is becoming actively the main side of our business, while we are still involved in almost every major implementation of Kahoot.
Excellent. And as I recall, the knowledge management tool that you're working on was a Midwestern contractor that we introduced you to, that they're going to use their internal knowledge and then perhaps in their ecosystem share that and then perhaps extend that to the universe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
An example of connecting partners in that ecosystem. So.
Right. Yeah.
Excellent. And, Roman, if people wanted to find Centranium, find you, what's the best way for them to find you?
The best way to find us is actually through Kahoot. You can go on our website, centranium.com, and contact us that way. But also, like I said, we are exclusively working with Kahoot. Our products are strategic in nature from Kahoot product offering. And Kahoot salespeople know all about us, and they know what to tell you. And if they have any additional questions, they can definitely talk to us and put us in touch with you.
Excellent. All right, Carrie, same question for you. What are some of your accomplishments, some of the things you've created or that you're most proud of?
Yeah, well, before I go into there, I'll say you can also learn about Centranium apps through Kvolve, because we often include Centranium apps with our customers as well. I will give a plug for sources of funds, definitely the strongest funding management tool for a PMIS in the market. Somebody can prove me wrong, but I've tried to implement a lot of them, and this is definitely the strongest. So,
right, Carrie, pause right there. I'm gonna just tell the audience that we gather every autumn. We have what we used to call the Kahoot Partner Conference, Enabling Innovation. It's now for partners and for our client base as well. But all of our partner companies like Centranium and Kvolve come together. And the first one I attended, I remember a conversation was going around about sources of funds. And one of the other partners, Carrie, it might have been you, stood up and said to the entire room of these other companies, many of whom compete against each other, when it comes to sources of funds, we're just going to defer to Centranium.
It probably was me, honestly, yeah.
Well, it struck me.
It definitely were you. I remember that moment.
Yeah.
It struck me that this ecosystem of partners is different from any I'd ever been around. You guys truly wanted to work together to help each other, to recognize each other's strengths and weaknesses, and you know, a lot of people know that most of Kahoot's business, you know, almost 90% comes through partners, and most of the time, over 50% of the time, multiple partners are working together. I think that's extraordinary. It is unlike anything else in the industry. So thanks for letting me jump in there, Carrie, and
yeah.
I interrupted you, but now back to bragging, if you would.
No worries. No, I think you can't talk about Kahoot without talking about the culture and the internal culture to Kahoot, but also how they extend that into the partner network. So I think it's good. Well, we have an arm of the business that also focuses on software development, just a pure software development arm of our business as well. And we actually started working on the Kahua for Transportation suite. So this has been a really fun one for us because we envisioned it as a multiple year, multiple implementation rollout. And so right now we have things like environmental planning, permitting. On the horizon, we have right of way. We also have a GIS solution that allows for not only visualization of your projects on the GIS, which is kind of what you typically see, but we also leaned into the asset-centric piece of it, and we have an asset-centric view of GIS as well. So being able to see your GIS assets against your projects, or even capturing some of that key data like critical, mean time to failure or risk associated with it, costs associated with replacement. So that's been really fun because that was always something that I was very passionate about, which is half of working with a PMIS is getting data, but once you get that data, how can you visualize it in a way that you're making data-informed decisions? So that has been a really fun application for us to develop as well. We also are working on a resource planning and allocation application, not to replace anything that would be enterprise resource management, but the specific use case that we have in construction where we may not always have timesheets at the right level, but we want to do top-down allocation of internal resources because we have these really great internal and external composure of teams. So some really fun stuff along there and some fun stuff on the horizon as well.
Excellent.
Can I just add something?
Please do.
So when we build our products, we try to make them as configurable as possible. Obviously, like any Kahua product, they can be extended by the implementation team or by the client themselves. But we want to make sure that we, Centranium, is not a bottleneck in the implementation of your software. The key for us, though, is the partner who implements it understands the process. Sources of funds is one of the more complex processes in construction project management. And one partner that we had no doubt about implementing was actually Kerry's team, K-Wall. That was from the beginning that we knew we had one conversation with Kerry, and we knew that her team knows what they're talking about as far as sources of funds management is concerned. And I know they implemented that software on a variety of clients, and we literally, our involvement was almost zero. We had some conversations as far as maybe giving some ideas of what would be the best way, but that was tremendous work by Kerry's team.
I feel the love. That's awesome. All right. I'm going to hearken us back to our debate format. We really haven't had much of a debate here. It's been a great conversation, but I do want to give each of you guys a chance to have a closing statement as if we were on that debate stage. Give your summary advice for any company that wants or needs a new and better project management information system. And Kerry, we'll let you go first.
Yeah. To summarize, I really feel like I said it at the beginning, and I'll say it again. The best PMIS tool is one that you can start using tomorrow. There's a reason that we often recommend Kahua because you can stand it up very quickly, but it has that inherent long-term ability to use low code, to customize the way you do business where it matters, to keep things out of the box where it doesn't matter as much. And then also the connectivity, again, to the externals, some really fun stuff with asset-centric, Power BI. So why do the work that somebody else has already done that has a much larger developer workforce, has to do things like security, cybersecurity in order to meet the needs of all of their customers. So as much as I'd love to say COTS is the only solution, there's nuance to it, which is you have to pick the right COTS platform.
Thank you, Kerry. Roman?
Absolutely. Platform is your answer. Low-code platform is your answer. In addition to the proper choosing of the proper platform, make sure you find the best implementation team. And also, depending on the size and the complexity of your own internal IT group, consider developing internal expertise in KBuilder if you choose Kahua, develop your internal expertise in KBuilder that will allow you to be a little more independent in adjusting your processes going forward if you need to. We are all busy. Everyone who implements Kahoot is busy. You're not always going to get our immediate attention based on conflicting schedules and everything. Being able to go and make some minor adjustments even on your own is a big differentiator, where you don't need to wait for Kahoot or Kahoot certified partner to go and add an extra task that you may need in your process.
Well, I can't thank the two of you enough for helping a non-technical person like me understand what the best options are for improving project management technology. You've made it what seems like magic. You've made it seem real to me. So thank you very much. And
thank you
to our audience for joining us for this October podcast. We're glad that you're with us for the Build Different podcast. Please join us again next month, and we look forward to hearing you and seeing you there.